Hello, everybody! It is Rocco, you boy, coming at you once again with another Age of Sigmar video. In this training arc series here, as you can see, it's Rocco's Cities of Sigmar versus the Skaven. But first, we have some bookkeeping to catch up on. What happened with the Battle Scroll update? Great question. If I had to guess, there are a lot of very large tournaments that have a lot of Games Workshop presence that are going on. The weekend that I'm recording this would be the LVO, Las Vegas Open going on. To name one of them, there's another big thing going on at Warhammer World and throughout the world. There are a lot of major grand tournaments, and they have Games Workshop representation there. My guess is when the battle scroll goes up, what they usually do is update the app with all the points and everything. And someone had a great thought. Why not wait until after the end of the competitive season, which is generally the Las Vegas Open's weekend, before we reset everything? Which I like as a player, and I like for the people playing this weekend. But for me and my things, I'll be a little bit selfish and say I wish it had happened. But it didn't, and that's okay. So what does that mean? Because we've hobbied, we've had a great time. I'm almost wrapped up everything here. What did you do, Rocco? I played a game! Because yes, I did. I played against my friend. He goes by Doc. He plays a lot of Skaven, including Clan Pestilence, and he has some beautifully eye of the beholder beauty. I think they're really cool. Has converted up these brood horrors to go and be the one dead center on the screen. You might see my mouse there. Uses as a vermin lord. The one on bottom right of your screen below me is his plague furnace. I believe he has another one for Screaming Bell as well. And to the left, you could see my bottom of turn one where I got to play. We ended up playing, oh gosh, hold on. It is the ambush mission. It is Spring the Trap, where my opponent was able to teleport the Vermin Lord to my right flank. Thankfully didn't land the charge immediately, and we had ourselves a game. In fact, I gave away first turn. I thought I was in a really good position there to just take everything, not needing my buffs up, and then disaster nearly struck. Unfortunately, you see a blob of totally not Phoenix Guard right by my big red dice used for turn orders. That should have been a much bigger blob, because after my opponent teleported their humongous Vermin Lord, they used some lovely spells that killed half my elves. They're there to take a flank and hold on for dear life, and so that is what they did. Again, it was a very fun game. You can see my Belthanos there is unpainted, but currently, I might mess up my camera doing this, that has been rectified. Beautiful little grasshopper there. And again, it was a very fun time. One of my locals, over the long holiday weekend, we got a game in. And it was a lot of Pestilence. There were Plague Sensor Bearers that are scary, Plague Monks, all the different priests. The new Underworld's Warband, that is really frickin' cool, everybody, where it has a prayer that it could contaminate an objective. And if they're contesting that objective, no one else can touch it. It's just them. And enemy units can take mortal wounds being near it. And I had a very, very scary time trying to get that back. And, well, let's go to the tape here. Again, Rocco went first. No, I didn't. I gave away first. Haha, Doc went first. I doubled from bottom of 1 into 2. And you can see the progress here where Belthanos went and cleaned house in the middle. Again, my shooting went good. My mortal wounds went good. I felt like I was in a good position. The plague furnace still being there, a whole mess of rats everywhere still. And off camera, off to the right, you see a conga line of like 6 elves or so. That's because off camera is a humongous vermin lord still that ends up killing all of them. So I didn't do Sanctify as my first thing. I don't even know what Endless Exploration is. Because Crescendo of Disease, Intimidate, and led into the Maelstrom. I did. Oh, I know what I did. Because my first battle tactic I did was the. I will get the proper city's name. Because it's the one with where you shoot someone and make them take a battle shock. Where it is called Bring Full Arms to Bear. It's not in the app. I honestly should probably go out and write someone in Goonhammer and ask if they could update the battle tactics for cities, which is fine. My second one I did was Mount the Charge. This is my turn 2 here, with Belthanos going in and taking the middle objective. He took a lot of punishment and actually ended up round 3 just dying there. That's alright. He did what he had to do. And my 3 was definitely surround and destroy, because we just had more movement for things. And the reason, though, it doesn't go past round 3 is my opponent's top of 3, when they doubled me, as you can see, the state of this is, it's rough. They surround Belthanos, Plague Sensor Bears come in and wipe out a bunch of my Steel Helms, and a Vermin Lord Warbringer who has healed themselves up with Heroic Recovery is staring down my Fusiliers. They have an order. Again, I warned my opponent, I'm like, hey man, I could have Return Fire, I could have the movement order, Return Fire. And he's like, oh, it's okay, I'll still shoot it with my prehensile tail attacks. I'm like, okay, cool. So and I flipped the thing and it was Return Fire. And currently, as written, I could just Return Fire to enemy unit, and the smart thing probably would have been to just shoot the plague sensor that the hero's on, just dead. Plague Furnace, there we go. But instead, I shot dead the Vermin Lord, and my opponent was like, yeah, it's okay. Because even though they killed Belthanos, that actually gives me several battle tactics to do to retake the objective. It could be Raise Banner, it could be Surround and Destroy, it could be Intimidate the Invaders. I have 3 doable battle tactics. We talked it out, but we called it here. Again, this is a game where the score up until this point was what? It was 8-10. And he only scored the 1 point, and then bottom of my turn I scored, but it was very close. And if he hadn't prehensile tailed, I still would have had potential for an Unleash Hell. But my guy was smart. He still had a foot hero for Pestilence, one of the foot priests. I was going to try a long bomb charge. There was still play. It's just, unfortunately, my city's people were able to do what the list was designed to do. I was able to go and push out my opponent so they couldn't touch my castle, which is great, right? This is how everything was built to be. And I do have some notes because I'm me. And, these are some of my thoughts here that I've written down. Thinking more in my game, if I had taken the Griffin on Marshall, the Marshall on Griffin even, and the Foot Marshal for the points of Belthanos, it wouldn't have been able to survive like Belthanos did. Having the built-in 5-up ward is amazing because I can't guarantee Steel Helms live long enough to keep an objective sanctified. I can't have my Pontifex Sinestra everywhere to give out the big ward bubble. It doesn't always go off. Um, and for the love of everything natural in Sylvanethy, I have only had that bug hit in I think one of my 5 games, and it wasn't this one. It missed all 4 combats it was in. It was just the rider doing uh, everything he could. But that being said, the damage of the Griffin wouldn't outweigh the utility of my rider because again, movement wins games. The ability to run and charge and retreat and charge on Belthanos is fantastic. Him clearing an objective off, doing just enough to like beat up a screen, and then just trade punches after that. It broke my opponent's back on this. And mostly because he held in several units in place that then couldn't redeploy, that then, I made sure that I could shoot off that wouldn't be able to affect the game more. He did what he needed to do, and love him for it. And also, the Wild Corpse Hunters finally had a piece of terrain that they could stand on and stay in for the extra rend. And it just makes me really miss how I used to use Shadow Warriors for this kind of a thing, and how I really like the Wilder Corpse Hunters. They fill a role as a screen. They've got good shooting. They've got good range. They can have a mess of attacks if you keep the dogs alive in order to do the mortal wounds on 6s to hit, as long as that spell stays around. Fusiliers, listen, we can talk the internet all up and down every day. This wasn't even that I necessarily ever spiked mortal wounds too high. This was just at 3s and 3s, 42 shots at neg 1 rend into rats that have a 6-up save. It felt like mortal wounds. And there are going to be matchups, even if the mortal wound spell goes away, that a block of 20 Fusiliers is still going to be really good. Even if someone's on a 2-up save, I can put through, 20-ish shots a shooting phase after my hits and wounds go. And then they still have to make a bunch of armor saves. If they make them, so be it. If they don't, then my target priority goes to clearing screens and chaff for my other stuff to get in and mess them up. Also, the pregame move on Wilder Corpse Hunters has been absolutely fantastic for me every game. Just to be able to, move to threaten an objective even. Because humans are slow at move 5, so having them move 10 inches and then still shoot afterwards functionally is really good. And then, to the end of this, the Blackguard and the Sorceress are not the Phoenix Guard with a Phoenix Captain nearby. They're just not, and that's okay. The fact that they're not immune to Battle Shock and they're not able to reroll wounds like the Phoenix Guard were, but they just have the ward save if they're near each other, I'm okay with that. Again, I still use the spell Tenumbral Blades, and again, damage-wise, they're okay for their points. Even with Tenumbral Blades, I don't know if it's that if it's just my rolling, I don't know, but a lot of the time, they're a big unit that gets tagged from 2 different directions and has to split attacks, and they do okay. What they've really done great at is absorbing damage, and my opponents recognize that they are a threat that needs to be dealt with because of the spell. Because the one game against Flesh Eater Courts where they didn't die, they killed a bunch of stuff. But because, they spent the whole game, they took the far right objective on my right flank by the tower. I'm looking at it, it's bumped. Which is fine. and I fought a Vermin Lord with them. They died horrifically. I still rallied a few back before I charged in, which is great. But they did their job as they took over a flank and they held it long enough. And again, the whole point of this list is hold the opponent's army in place while the Fusiliers do work, right? That was the point of this. And I was able to move my castle up through the movement order to close to the middle of the board and be effective, and then force my opponent to come in through the flanks. They couldn't contest objectives in the middle, and they had to crash around me. And it's been working for 5 games now. I think the Blackguard are pointed appropriately because Phoenix Guard were 170 for 10. Blackguard are like 140 right now for 10. And I have to get a Sorceress to do the combo. Again, they do what you need them to do. I wish they did a little more, but I can't complain. Steel Helms, they die beautifully for me. They do as much damage as you want a 100-point unit to do. They'll do like 4 or 5 wounds, tank some stuff, and then die. They do great. Pall of Doom is my favorite spell. I didn't need to use my Whisper Blade. There were times I definitely should have still rolled anyway, but I kept like saving it for like a Battle Shock immunity or like a redeploy or whatever. But the Pall of Doom spell worked so well, and I kept focusing down whatever I Pall of Doomed, which again is the spell where a unit can't issue or receive commands. So for me, this is more. My command core did its job keeping the wizards alive, as my wizards went through some stuff on the Hallowheart casting for my 2 human wizards there. And my sorceress played it mostly safe. Again, I love this army. It's a lot of fun for me to play. It's a build that I will not get bored of. It can be oppressive, but opponents still have counterplay to it, and this is a tournament list that it's supposed to be hard to play against. You know? And I'd also add in that the shooting in this list and the mortal wounds is not as oppressive as like my old Living City list that where the fulminators could shoot and move their mortal wound blast and move up and get a 3-inch charge before that got nerfed. And I used to bring 20 crossbows and 20 handgunners that were 60 shots and 10 Sisters of the Watch for another. I used to have 80 shots and then Hurricanum shooting. And now it's just 42 from the Fusiliers, and then about 14 or so from the Wilder Corps. Oh, and I also had Shadow Warriors. So it's actually less oppressive shooting wise, but it feels stronger. And I don't know how to quantify that because I know the other build was stronger. I know it was. And it was more consistent. And it had more shots and it did more damage. But this, I feel like I can pinpoint where I need it. And because I can put Pall of Doom on someone, they can't all out defense. So my neg 1 rend matters if they haven't Mystic Shielded. And I think that is probably the bigger combo here is the Battle Wizard is doing more work for me. It's not the shooting itself, but it's also the fact that I can set up, return fire and, get my opponent out. Now, this one we did play for speed, but it was also my friend. We hadn't seen each other in a while and played a game in forever. Um, so, I mean, again, we're setting up the table, taking a little while in deployment, talking rules and stuff. I do feel comfortable that I can get a game with cities in about 3.5 hours done. A lot of it is me getting my orders out quicker, and part of it is explaining it to my opponent quicker. Um, and I feel like we're getting on our way for tournament speed of 3 hours a game. And I also was able to get from. I bought this. Hold on, it's off camera. Where from Pro Painted Studios, they have a beautiful little tracker, and I bought a bunch of the orders and stuff. And the point is, like, these are little whiteboards. You could write in like, or Forager, then put their order in, and then you just have this off to the side on your table. Came with a marker too, really nice marker. To have a better way to do your orders. And I think that, again, finding the different tools and things that'll help me stay more organized so I'm not accidentally knocking over tokens or freaking out and flipping it over every 5 seconds. Like, make sure I have the right one, make sure I have the right one. This will help. But yeah, it was a fun game with a great opponent. I don't know when the Battle Scroll's coming out. I do like my musings, and I feel confident right now with like another game or two for speed purposes, I will be able to go start looking for local tournaments. So that's exciting. And hopefully someone will go and kick my butt before I go to a tournament to see more weaknesses of this list. But until then, be nice, roll some dice. As I say at the end of all of our videos. Bye, everybody. Also, like and subscribe. YouTuber shout out.